super excited. And we celebrated last week, October the 2nd, Wrongful Conviction Day. And so we want to make that, we're going to push to make that a national holiday because it's a day well deserved for us to commemorate. And I like to give a big shout out to my Canada family who's watching and whoever's watching in the US or in the United States. And I would like to thank again the committee for supporting this event, allowing me to highlight some amazing and courageous people who were wrongfully convicted. Since 1989, over 3,220 wrongful convictions have been revealed across the nation. This issue doesn't just impact those who've been wrongfully incarcerated, but their loved ones and communities as well. This wrongful conviction day commits to learning and sharing more about the issue. So we did proclaim October 2nd as Wrongful Conviction Day, but we just kind of want to take every day of this month to celebrate Wrongful Conviction Day. So with that being said, I would like to introduce our second guest. And her story begins, the women are now known as the San Antonio Four. And Anna fought for her innocence for 22 years. Anna Vasquez is the Director of Outreach and Education for the Innocence Project of Texas. Ms. Vasquez took on the role after serving nearly 13 years, 13 prison sentence for a crime that never occurred. And welcome, Miss Anna Vasquez. Woo! Hi, my dear sister.
Daphne, it's really great to see you and be here to be able to speak about my wrongful convictions. And again, thank you for celebrating Wrongful Conviction Day.
Absolutely.
In a continuous effort.
Yes, absolutely. So let's go ahead and get started. You can kind of introduce yourself further and kind of start sharing your story. And as we go in and out, I won't be rude, but if it's something I need to ask you, I'm going to interrupt and you answer however it goes. All right. So let's go.
All right. Sounds great. Again, thank you for having me. And basically back in 1994, myself and my three friends were accused of a horrendous crime, which was the aggravated sexual assault of one of my friend's nieces. Ultimately, we were charged and actually convicted and sent to prison with many years to be served. I served nearly 13 years on a 15-year prison sentence for the aggravated sexual assault of the alleged victims, Vanessa and Stephanie Limon. And as you can imagine, I never really thought that something like this could happen in anywhere, really. I always thought that, this does not happen to people that have not done anything wrong. Unfortunately, being so young when this accusation came about, I was completely naive. I didn't know my rights. I had no idea that wrongful convictions were even occurring around the US, around the world, really. But with that being said, as you can imagine, it was really difficult to serve time in prison in Texas for a crime that never even occurred. After nearly, I would say, 10 years into my sentence, the Innocence Project of Texas became on board with the help of people that were advocating for us. They, Mike Ware, the executive director, took a look at the case and was able to see, because he worked with wrongful convictions, and he just came across the same feeling that this wasn't right, that this was inaccurate information, it was faulty evidence, and he got involved. And he was, we were fortunate for him to take our case up. It wasn't until 2016 that we were proven by the Court of Criminal Appeals to be actually innocent. And 2017, we were compensated by the state of Texas. And it wasn't until December of 2018 where my record was expunged. So in total, from beginning accusation to record expungement, it took 24 years of my life total in fighting for my innocence.
Can you share what it was like when you were first convicted? Did you think you were going to win the case? What were your thoughts? What was going on during that time?
Yeah, thank you for asking that, Daphne. My thoughts of getting convicted, I never thought it could happen. You know, even when the accusations came about, I was ready and willing and did everything with the investigation. I completely cooperated. I took a lineup, I did a statement, a polygraph, everything to show that this could not have happened, that this was a mistake. Unfortunately, that seemed to be the worst thing I could have done. I should have obtained an attorney that is seasoned to handle these types of cases and questioning, right? I go in there believing that, you know, as long as I'm innocent, I tell the truth, and, you know, things will get worked out. That was my thought process in being helpful with the investigation. And little did I know that turned out to work against me by being so honest. So it was, as you can imagine, being actually convicted, I still had hope up until the time that they said guilty. I really thought that something would happen to where it was, you know, the truth came out, or, you know, the jury saw that this could not have happened. But it didn't. It didn't. So it was hopeful, but at the end, when I was actually convicted, I was shocked, disbelief.
And yeah, and how long did the trial take? How many days were you in trial?
So mind you, there was 4 of us, Daphne. So there was a first case, which was Liz Ramirez, and that happened in 1997, and they took her first. Now, it wasn't that there was any strong evidence against her. It was, according to my attorneys back then, it was because she was the aunt of the alleged victims. So they took her first. She was convicted in a 2-day trial and was sentenced to 37 and a half years.
Wow.
In 1998, prior to taking us to trial, they presented a plea bargain, right? And that was 10 years deferred adjudication. And, you know, basically, had we taken it, we would have never stepped foot in a prison.
Right.
But we declined it. And even though, you know, we were facing 5 to 99 years for this.
I hope we don't lose
99 years. And so the second trial, which I was a part of, and we were ultimately convicted. It started Monday. It ended on Saturday morning with a guilty verdict. And that's when my conviction started.
Days long. Correct, Anna? Oh, we have bad connection here. You hear me, Anna?
I can now, yes.
Okay. We keep freezing up. We're going to make sure this thing is going to be right. So your trial was 5 days long. Am I correct? Because we were stopping and going back. So how many days was your trial?
Yes, it started right. It was for 5 days, yeah. And on so say Friday midday, they the jury were given their instructions, and then they were sequestered that night and came back Saturday morning first thing, and they had a guilty verdict set in place for us. They had decided on guilt.
Wow. Hmm.
Yeah.
What was your feeling, Anna, when you heard that guilty verdict?
Uh, I couldn't believe it. I had so many feelings and emotions after hearing the words guilty. As
Mm-hmm.
you can imagine, it was just complete shock.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Disbelief, humiliation. There's so many things that were happening in my mind, and with my thoughts and my feelings, and then hearing the gasp from my mother, right behind
Yes.
me.
Yes.
That
Yes.
that just was even more painful than actually
Right.
hearing them say you're guilty.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Um,
Right. Hmm.
and as you mentioned before, Daphne, in your introduction, it wasn't, this isn't just about a person that is found guilty. It,
Mm-hmm.
it's like a domino effect. It has your family, it has your friends, it has your loved ones, it has your community.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and it's an all around painful situation for many people, not just the one that is having to deal with a wrongful conviction.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so had everyone else had their trial, or which number were you?
So myself, Cassie, and Christy were in the second trial, tried together with the
Okay.
advice of
Okay.
our attorneys from the advice, because we could have done individual trials, but
Mm-hmm.
they thought that we had a better chance going in, the three of us, on this one trial.
Okay.
And I don't know if it was a good idea or not, but I did trust the attorneys, and you trust your attorneys to do the right thing, to protect their
Mm-hmm.
client and do what's best for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't really say that it was a bad decision, but that was what they thought was the best way. And of course, being naive about the whole situation, I trusted my attorney
Of course.
wholeheartedly, that
Yes.
he was going to fight for.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So as the journey began, and you look like survived through year one, well, your months, and then there's a year, and then there's another year, and then another year. What were you doing that time, Anna? What was just kind of walk us through the years. And seemed like to me that the days probably was long sometime, and just seems, yeah, my heart
Yeah,
just.
you're absolutely right. The very first year, the very first time that I stepped foot in prison, I was scared. I was frightened. I
Mm,
didn't know really what to expect. So those first couple years, as in many others that are wrongfully convicted, right, that are facing injustices, they spent a lot of time in the law library, as did I. I was just desperate to find something that proved or helped me to prove my innocence.
right, right.
So the first few years I spent in a law library trying to educate myself. I was reaching out to organizations that could possibly help bring my case back into court.
Hmm.
But, all I ever received was denial letters. And, you have no new evidence to present. And remembering the fact that it was a sexual assault, well, as women, we don't have that DNA to go back into court with, as if a man had
Hmm.
sexually assaulted somebody, and they left DNA behind. We
Right.
didn't have that. So basically, after the first couple of years, Duffy, and after so many rejections, um, I basically had to transform my way of thinking, and being able to really step back and embrace is not the right word, but adapt
Yeah.
to prison, and now this is going to be my life for the next 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would continue to fight for my innocence on the outside,
Mm-hmm.
not knowing how, not knowing who, where, when, or anything. But that was the hope that I had to keep in order to survive.
Yes.
I couldn't let my mental ability take over,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of figure that here I am stuck, and it's a negative place. There's so many things that go on in prison
Mm-hmm.
that it's basically, day after day, it's survival. You're in survival mode,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so it was really hard to adjust and adapt. But you
Mm-hmm.
have to do that in order to survive your sentence. It's either gonna. There's a saying that either your time is gonna do you, or you do your time,
Mm.
and that's meaning you, there's a way that time can do you by being and staying in that negative area that can take hold of you.
Mm-hmm.
Really, after having to endure everything that I had to, it
Mm.
it, it can take that away. And I saw it in so many others that were going through something like that. But I
Mm-hmm.
just kept on, trying to stay afloat, keeping that hope, sticking to my faith, Daphne, because
Mm-hmm.
although I had so much love and support on the outside, it was me alone in that prison system.
Yes.
And I could only rely on myself
Yes.
to continue on.
Yes. So, so with all of that going on and for you alone, tell me about your family. How did it affect your family, Anna? How did this affect your family?
How did it affect
Your
my family?
family, your mom. Yeah.
Daphne, I think that I feel like I was kept in the dark a lot when it came to my family, and knowing the struggles that they were dealing with, because they wanted to keep my spirits up. They didn't want to know that, mom was struggling. Mom
Mhm.
would make sure that I money in my account, even though she didn't have it, to spare. And she would go where it comes to, like always spend the holidays with me. And that took away from my siblings by doing that. And, they always wanted their mom. Who doesn't want to spend time with their mom during the holidays? But she made that sacrifice to spend it with me because she felt like I was the one that needed that support the most. So I think in those situations, there was a lot of things that the family kind of kept me in the dark behind, not wanting to, hurt me in any way, or bring my spirits down for any reason.
Yeah. We this internet, and then I got someone trying to join us tonight. But yeah, just so as the time passed and you were there and your family coming to visit you and just in and out, tell me, when did you finally get something to look like something was going to happen for you? When was that moment? How long were you in prison when something seemed like, they say the sun is going to shine, just a little bit of sunlight? When did you start to see some of that pinch of a light coming through for you?
Probably in my 10th, going into my 11th year in prison, when Mike Ware came for a visit, and basically wanted to talk to me about what was going on, the possibility of him coming on board for the case. So that gave me a glimmer of hope, Daphne, but throughout the years, as people came across our story, we had those people reaching out and trying to help, um, and bring awareness to our case. But for some reason, they would always come to this roadblock, and they would just all of a sudden disappear, or say, well, basically this is as far as we can go, so on and so forth. So after seeing Mike, I had that glimmer of hope, but it wasn't something that I held on to, for the simple fact that there were others that tried to help prior to the Innocence Project of Texas getting involved, and it just it would just fall through. So again, Mike didn't make any promises that I would be out or he could get my conviction overturned. It was, he's going to do the best that he can, and you can only hope for the best, but expect the worst, right? And so there was hope at that particular time after meeting Mike.
Okay. Okay. So after meeting Mike, so let me kind of backtrack. So you said people was starting to reach out to you. So how did you get involved with Innocence Project? Had you sent them your package or something, and they responded? How did you connect with the Innocence Project of Texas?
Right. So that's actually a completely different story.
Really?
So as I had mentioned, in the very few years that I had begun my prison sentence,
Mm-hmm.
the Innocence Project of Texas was not yet an organization. Um, they didn't get founded until 2006.
Ah,
Where it was
wow.
founded. So coming into this, it was, and when I say that, it was different, just really people that came across the
Mm-hmm.
story and wanted to help. But
Yeah,
it
yeah.
wasn't too much like attorneys or a law school or anything like that. So
Mm.
when the Innocence Project of Texas did get involved, it was from a gentleman that was out in the Yukon territory. He was a professor, was doing a study on women in prison, or offenders, women offenders.
Mm-hmm.
And, he would come across women that maybe had that student teacher relationship, things of that nature. That was kind of, common. But when he
Yeah.
came across ours,
Mm-hmm.
this is completely different. They're talking about, this 4 women that was basically the way it was described, Daphne. Not to get too graphic, but
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. I know.
basically it was like an orgy. It was drug fueled, and these, innocent little girls were basically, given to us by their aunt, which is, the story that they made
Right,
up in
right, right.
trial.
Mhm.
So Daryl Otto is his name, and he became involved and started to actually do the footwork to get
Mhm.
us seen, to get the case heard, and things of that nature. So one
Right.
person, led to another,
Mm-hmm.
and here comes the Innocence Project of Texas, Mike Ware.
Wow.
So it was because of somebody else advocating on our behalf that we were
Mm-hmm.
even heard about, really, that we were even looked upon.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you that Mike Ware, did get some grief from some of his colleagues about taking this case. It
Really?
was a hard case. It was a hard.
Yeah.
We had absolutely nothing to go back into court with, Daphne. And
Mhm.
this man is my hero. I'm telling you.
I
I
believe
can't
it.
stress that enough,
Uh-huh.
because we had no chance to go into court at that particular time when they took on the case. Just the simple
Wow.
fact that he's seen so many different wrongful convictions occurring, and he was a
Mm-hmm.
seasoned attorney on this. Being an attorney post conviction, mind you, is a completely different level of, being a defense attorney. You can't just, you have to understand, it's a completely different level. It's so hard, you know
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
but that's when I felt great about it. I was so grateful that this man, this complete stranger, did the
Mhm.
footwork, did his homework in investigating the case. And he was
Wow.
only a professor. Yes. Yes. So, Daphne, this goes back to what we're doing now, what you're doing, what you're doing. I
Mhm.
mean, you never
Mhm.
know who this may touch, who may see it, who may
Yeah.
be searching for help for a loved one and not know what to do, where to go, or, things of that nature. But I'm here to tell you that it can happen. It can
Mhm.
absolutely happen. And to
Yeah.
never lose hope.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I know I shared the story what we are currently working on. We are partnered with House of Renewed Hope, Christopher Scott, and had a chance to meet him and all of that. And then he became like family. And one day, young lady out of the blue, I was with someone at lunch and I was telling her about Prevention Zone. And I said, girl, yeah, we want to help the people who have been wrongfully convicted and so on and so forth. And she said, I have a friend who was wrongfully convicted. I said, really? She said, yes. And so she called the lady on the phone. And when I told her who I was and all of that, she just started crying, Anna. And I said, I don't know how I can help, but let me make some calls, let me see whatever. And I reached out to Christopher Scott and I told him what was going on. He said, let me take a look at it. And the rest is history is being made as we speak. He's doing the investigation part of it and just handling it. He has his attorney involved, and so we're moving forward with that, trying to help these individuals. And at the end of the day, that seems to be just it's almost like if I can just go down the line, what happened and wrongfully convicted, let me help you although it can't work like that, but that's that's my mission and my goal. And then to hear from that glimmer of hope, Mike Ware came into your life, and here we are now talking the history side of
Yes.
it's history. But as they are saying now, from pain to purpose, you now have that purpose, because all of us, we were in our normal lives, minding our business and doing, trying to be a good citizen and everything, and all of a sudden, kabam, the criminal justice system hits us in our face. And when you're not used to it, you don't know what to do. But sometime, and I'm so glad that you did not take the plea deal. Your friends did not take that plea deal. You fought it to the end. And that's what I tell people. If you did not commit your crime, do not take a plea deal, even if it means that you have to go to prison. It'll still give you an opportunity to continue to fight your case. Because if you take a plea deal for something you didn't do, look what scars it leave on you.
Yeah.
Look what it leaves on you. And with me being a retired parole officer, I seen it. When
Yeah.
find people who I was like, so what did you do when you went to prison? Well, Miss Jack, it was like this. I had to take a plea deal. And I said, a plea deal? I said, but why, if you didn't commit your crime? But that was the only alternative. They sitting in the county jail 2 or 3 years, and the attorney came with the deal from the prosecutor, and bam, here they are on my caseload for something they didn't do. And so
Right.
you was so determined, and that light came to you. That light
Right.
came to you.
But I'm gonna add something to that, Daphne, because
Mm-hmm.
I felt the same way for so many years, and you hear the stories, right? That people do take plea bargains or admit guilt during interrogation and whatnot, and
Mm-hmm.
I was always one sided, like, how can this happen? How can you do that? What were you thinking? Why? All you had to ever do was stick to your guns and say no, it didn't happen. I had to
Mm-hmm.
put that aside, Daphne, because just going back to what my case was, right? my sentence was, I was looking at from 5 to 99 years. When they came with a plea bargain of 10 years deferred adjudication, basically what it means is 10 years probation, as long as you don't get into any type of trouble, right? It could be successfully completed, but there's still consequences that follow that, right? Had I taken that, I still would have been a registered sex offender for the rest of my life, and the list goes on and on. But no, I did not take the plea bargain, but I cannot blame others for taking a plea bargain when there's so many different scenarios or challenges that they may be facing. For example, I met a man that took a plea bargain, and his mother was up in age. He was up in age, but his mother was up in age, and she wouldn't have had 2 or 3 more years had he not taken a plea bargain and been able to stay out those 3 years. So he felt like that was more important than fighting for his innocence, right? I need to be with my mother. I need to care for those things. So I've I can't pass judgment.
You're right.
It worked for me. I know I'm grateful that I, was able to do that, but I can never fault anybody for doing it because I just don't know all the circumstances that is involved in that particular situation. And Daphne, you're absolutely right. It does ruin the chances of getting back in court. It makes it that much harder. Not that it's completely zeroed out, but it does make it harder. But in that same sentence, that's something that I have no idea what went on behind the scenes and why they chose to do that. So it happens way too many times. It happens way too many times. I've heard the stories, Daphne. So that's why I'm kind of had to change my way of thinking towards that. It might not have been right for another. So.
Yeah. It's a big decision that a person have to make. Like you said, the gentleman that you know of, he had to make that decision because of his mother, and it's such a shame. It's almost like,
it is.
What can we do? So now we got to think of ways when you get a person who take a plea, how can we help these people out? When they had no choice. And again, like you say, taking a plea is almost saying I'm guilty of it. But then again, I haven't heard of it. Maybe you have. You heard a person who might have taken a plea and tried to redo their case again. Is it such a thing? Do you know of?
It depends on if there's mitigating evidence behind that. For example, like during interrogation, people were beaten, or their rights were taken away or violated. So it just depends on how far of that, in that case. But again, all the different organizations in the world, I believe that Innocence Project out of New York is the one that really has a lot of the funding that has helped people out of, not out of plea deals, but have been able to find something that could bring that person back into court. But it has happened. It's happened so often that they had to start this, right? They had to start this new, develop this new thing about all these people getting plea bargains, or, coerced confessions, or, during interrogation, they were threatened. Think about the Central Park Five. That's a case that, they were interrogated, they were beaten, they were scared, they were frightened, their rights were violated, things of that nature that, they had said that they were guilty, and they were convicted, but ultimately were able to win their case years later, mind you. But there are cases out there like that.
I'll be thinking of ways like, how can I help you hear the stories? And we had our event over the weekend, Catalyst for Change Community Forum, and it was amazing. We had a really good turnout, and we had a excellent panel. Matter of fact, we're now partnered with Fox 26, and I was chatting with the producer this morning, and she said that was very informative from all
Yeah.
aspects. We talked about the juvenile justice, we talked about wrongful conviction and prison, parole, probation. And then our highlighted featured was talking about the Harris County Jail. And then we all focused back on mental health, because that is such a that's the real deal. You're talking wrongful conviction or any type of crime that a person might have been involved. In other words, the criminal justice system and mental health, all that go hand in hand, because you have a person who might have committed a crime. What was the root of that? Could have been some mental health going on. So all of that go hand in hand. So our event was very successful. And I keep mentioning Christopher Scott because of what we're doing. He's doing with Prevention Zone, and I shared that Mike Ware helped him out. So it's just so important. It's almost like, so what is it we can do? I'm always looking for a solution. That's what we wanted to do on this past Saturday, is finding a solution to this madness. And I always say that wrongful conviction is my baby. It's like, how can we continue to help? How can we bring the people aboard? How can we get the attorneys? And I know it comes with funding and all of that, but it's all about, and I always say, if I can't conquer the world, I'm going to try to put a dent in it. So so that's what we want to see happening. That's why having this event, this series that we are doing every Monday night, I just wanted to have the people I know, and I'm so glad I met you, Anna. Oh my God, you're my sister. I'm so glad you took the time when I reached out to you to, I asked you, when you get out of prison, what is it you need, or what happens once you come out, and you explain it. And that's just how you educated me. So I've acted upon that based on that. And then Anthony Graves was our guest last week, and I talked to him when he was on my podcast, and he said, Miss Jack, is really, once we get out of the prison after being wrongfully convicted, we don't want to look back. Anything TDCJ have, we want to run as fast as we can. But yeah, it's just that it's a lot out there, and we just want to be a part of it. But back to you, Anna, as we doing really good on time here. So we got Mike way on board. And so how many years was it that you were in prison, and how long did it take after things started happening for you? Look like it was about to happen. I want you to tell that story.
Mm. So it was in 2012 when I was released on parole. It wasn't until 2015 that we were actually able to go back into court. We were able to go back into court because the evidence, the medical evidence that was used against us in court, the science had changed. And the pediatrician had signed an affidavit stating that the science was wrong. And it has changed since she testified in our trial, which was 98 and 97, 98. So we were able to go back into court, and not only with that, but with one of the alleged victims had recanted her story. So it was very helpful, but what ultimately sealed the deal was the medical evidence. And from there, we had a evidentiary hearing. It was sent up to the Court of Criminal Appeals, and it was the day before Thanksgiving in 2016 that the Court of Criminal Appeals came back and deemed us actually innocent. And as you can imagine, Thanksgiving that year was just that, a thanks to be given.
Be given.
Yeah. Now in 2017, I was able to be compensated by the state of Texas for this wrongful conviction, myself and my 3 friends.
Okay.
But after After that, Daphne, you think everything is a done deal. And as I became director of outreach and education for the Innocence Project of Texas, well, I started going into high schools, into colleges and whatnot, right? Every time now you would have to give your ID and check in with the office before you went to a classroom,
Right.
especially in high school.
Yes.
Well, according to one of the administrators at a school, they said that I still had a record, having no idea that what this didn't come off when I was deemed actually innocent. This didn't come off when I was compensated by the state of Texas. Are you saying that I am still in the system? You can, look up my, say, TDCJ number and I would still be in the system. Or, an arrest would pop up with law enforcement. Say I got stopped. So, yeah, I would have a red flag and I would have to be escorted into the high schools. Well, I just thought that was procedure right after all these occurrences at schools, the shootings and whatnot. I just thought it was an extra precaution. But no, thanks to this administrator in the office, explained to me why I was having to do these extra steps.
Wow.
And there again, there was another fight that, Innocence Project of Texas was able to win and get it done. Just, there's so many things that I learned and I assumed that it would just all be in one shot. And unfortunately, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So how is it?
I mean, that's really a completely different fight, Daphne. Some people, you know,
Yeah. So what is the process if what is the process now once a person is exonerated? Are they clearing their records sooner or they are having to wait?
um, I think it's being done sooner because now they're well aware that
Okay.
it's not all hand in hand. It's not, all bundled up into, you know, finality.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
with that being said,
Yeah.
it's something that we're mindful of now. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
So that has changed. But,
Yeah.
Daphne, this is why things happen for a reason. I mean, I know you want to go out there and set the world on fire, right? Well, you are. I don't know if you really realize that,
Oh,
but
Anna.
going back to our initial conversation, Daphne, years ago,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
doing just that. You know,
Yeah.
um, we may not be able to change the world overnight, Daphne, but we can take little steps, and you are,
Yes.
and you have to believe that, and we have to embrace those victories every time there is one, whether it's
Yeah.
small or large. Of course, we
Yeah.
can't just always celebrate the large victories, right? The exoneration of he's out of prison. No, well, what about the fact that we were able to go back into court? Because I'll tell
Mm.
you what, it's a fight for these guys.
Yeah.
It really is a fight. Now, sometimes it's good. Sometimes the DA and the DA's office and the organization will go in as one, and it'll be great. But there
Mm.
are times that I've seen um, other counties fight tooth and nail from overturning this conviction.
Yeah.
So I have seen both ways, but
Yeah.
um, we just have to keep getting the word out there. But you're doing it. You're doing it.
Thank
So
you.
I do want to commend you on
Thank you.
continuing to move forward and pushing our stories out there.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
really is amazing, especially your background as a officer.
Yeah. Oh, girl, yes, I know, right? I know a little something about the system. Know a little something. So yeah, it makes a world of difference. And but so now we're here. So what is life? You finally got exonerated and got compensated. And what is life like now for you? Tell me about your mental health, Anna, if you can share just a tidbit or if you choose not to. But I know that mental health is a beast. It's a beast. It's a
It
beast.
is. It is, Daphne. And I appreciate you bringing that up because I think that the people's perception is that when they are released from prisons or jails even, people think that everything should just go back to normal. I think that they don't really think that being incarcerated has an effect on our mental health. I mean, for one, we're in survival mode every day that we're inside. It becomes really a fight, and it's, you having to adapt to prison, and that being a completely different world than what you're used to. You have to take that transitional time back and able to be able to transition properly, to the free world again, for lack of a better word. But it does take a toll on you. And I won't say that, I got it all figured out and I'm okay and I'm moving forward. No, absolutely not, Daphne. And I would be absolutely trying to lie to make it, fake it to make it. Well, that's what kind of I do, right? But I can't sit here and tell you that I don't have bad days. I can't sit here and tell you that if my partner asks me to take out the trash twice, that it doesn't trigger me into thinking that why is she telling me what to do? Like if I was back in prison when the guards were telling me what to do. So, it does have an effect, and not everything is the best. And we have to continue to really set forth and accept as a person, right, as individuals, that we do have problems, that we do suffer from trauma, that we do have, PTSD, and having to revolve around that and try to move forward. It's really difficult. It's really difficult. That's why, talking, being the outreach and education for Innocence Project of Texas, it's therapeutic. It really is, Daphne. But at the same time, it does bring up a lot of trauma. I mean, every day that I'm telling my story, if you really think about it, bottom line is that I'm re-traumatizing myself, right? And it does take a lot. It's my choice to continue to do that and get the wrongfully convicted cases out there, and mental health, and just talking about all these different topics that I can speak upon, and educating, the general public. But there may come a time, Daphne, that I say, okay, I'm going to step away for a little bit because I'm not right. And I have to take care of self first.
Absolutely.
And, that's what I try to tell. That's what I try and tell, those that are directly impacted by this, that, you come out here with the perception that you're going to come out running, you're going to get a job, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. But that's kind of false hope. You really need to take it slow and take it day by day, just like we did on the inside, and try to move forward as best you can. Because we hit those roadblocks. Hit those roadblocks. Okay, I'm going to go get a job. What? I have to check the box that I'm a convicted felon, but I'll explain at an interview. Well, guess what? There's 10 other applications, and they're going to throw out that one with the, I hate to say it, Daphne, but I went through it. I went through several jobs in order to, so I feel like I can speak upon that, there is those biases out there, and really it's a liability, right? In case, what if somebody is actually guilty, so it really does, unless you get that interview and are able to explain the situation and they want to give you a chance, there's the stacks, against you. So, it's really hard. And I think we set ourselves up for failure, because I know I did. I really know I did. And it was difficult. It's difficult.
Now, look at you now, girl. You're rocking and rolling. So how long have you been at Innocence Project? And how did you get that job?
Oh, gosh.
How did that happen?
I've been there since, really on the payroll since 2018, right? But I always was starting before then. I was speaking out, trying to bring awareness and things of that nature. But I finally was able to join in 2018, which I'm so grateful for,
You are.
and able to be able to help others and speak out and continue to, just lend a supporting hand for somebody. I think it's really invaluable.
Yeah.
And I think it's very much needed.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've had a good conversation and feel like we can just go on and on and on. But I know the audience, people got to get ready for the next day. We had a holiday today. And so, but what is it you can tell us that for the people who are struggling with the wrongful conviction, what can be a good takeaway for our audience to hear that would give them that little light of hope? Just share something that you can make them feel like there is hope.
I would say to take everything one day at a time. Um, don't think that you're going to conquer the world once you're released. In order to avoid those roadblocks and then have a downfall, um, really think about and understand that what they went through is not normal. Being wrongfully convicted and spending many years in prison, um, that's a really hard thing to accept. It really is. I can't stress this enough. And I really want them to think about and really accept that they do have some type of trauma behind that, whether it's dealing with a wrongful conviction period, or if it was something that they experienced in prison, if there was something that they saw in prison, and they really need to take care of self first, and
Right.
also realize that their family members are only there to help, and they don't and cannot, and thankfully, they cannot understand that. They can't
Mm-hmm.
understand what we went through. Half the time, Daphne, I've been out almost 11 years, and my family hasn't once. What was it like in prison?
Hmm.
What did you go through? Can you believe that? Why? Because they feel like they're going to bring up painful memories. But this is what I
Right.
do. Um,
Right. Right.
but it's tough conversations. I think we have to keep that in mind, that the family members, most times than not, they mean well, but they
Mm-hmm.
don't understand that maybe saying something can trigger us, even
Mm-hmm.
without meaning to trigger us. It could be any number of things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just want them to, and keep hopeful. If you're going through that transition of being proven innocent, just keep your
Mm-hmm.
head up and keep moving forward in a
Yeah.
positive manner. In a
Yeah.
positive manner. And there's nothing wrong and nothing to be ashamed about in asking
Mm.
for help.
Yes. Yes. Okay, Anna, I appreciate you so very much. You came through. I mean, I have some amazing friends. I know my family in Canada, when we again was talking about putting this together, and the people
Mhm.
they were asking for, these other people who are coming up here on each Monday night. And so I mean, it was like they mentioned your name. I was like, oh, I know her. And they mentioned Anthony. Oh, I know him. Yeah, I can call him. And that Christmas. Oh, yeah, I heard about him. So all of my friends, my family, you guys came through for me, and we're super excited. And hopefully so we can see you again. Now I have to tell you guys that Anna was our keynote speaker this past March at our Circle of Excellence, and she did an excellent job. She said she was nervous, but she still did an excellent job. And just to share, and a lot of people were touched by your story, Anna, and I appreciate you coming through. And it's funny, Anna and I, we've been talking and had never met face to face, and we met face to face for the first time in March. And it was like, oh, my sister. It's like we've been away from each other, and now we're
Yeah.
home. And so I just appreciate you so
Right.
very much. And we're gonna have to have a conversation, because Prevention Zone is doing a little something. And our goal is to catch the guys that are have a case going on and it's looking good, is to catch them before they come out. In other words, do a intake for them, so when they do come out, they'll know what to expect. They won't have to come out blank. So we're slowly getting there, and I'll probably
Right.
be reaching out to you
Yeah.
soon to kind of get some pointers and everything on how we can get in contact with someone who has a case that's looking good. We can go in there and kind of tell them, hey, there's hope out. When you come out, we're here for you. And so, but anyway, our time is winding up. And Anna, again, I appreciate you, and tell my other sister I said hello. And who knows, we might can
That's
see each other soon. I may have to take a trip down there to San Antonio, up to San Antonio. But I again appreciate you, Anna. And Anna has a social media. You all can find her. Not that she's doing a whole lot on it, but she's out there. If you need to reach out for her, you can reach out to her. And so, Anna, with that being said, I appreciate you. Okay.
absolutely. Thank you for
All right.
having me.
We'll chat again soon.
Thanks, Debbie.
All right. So on next week, we have another guest coming. We'll be back here, same place, same time, talking with people who have been wrongfully convicted and talking about their courageous comeback to this new world once they came out of prison. And so we're super excited. So be back here next week at 7 o'clock. We're looking forward to you joining us. Again, thank you guys for joining us. Good night.